Welcome to Rising Woman Leaders. I'm your host, Meredith Ram, and I believe the time has come for women to share their gifts, their voice, and their stories. I love seeing women spiritually and financially empowered, thriving in their life's work, and doing what they love every day. I've gathered a community of women living their dreams to tell us their stories and inspire us to step into more courage, self-love, and feminine leadership. If you like this podcast, follow me on Instagram at Rising Woman Leaders and sign up for email updates at risingwomanleaders.com. Now get cozy with a journal and a cup of tea. I hope you enjoy today's show. I'm here today with Alexandra Roxo, who is a transformational coach, healer, writer, and artist who is extremely passionate about awakening the world. Her writing on personal growth, healing, the divine feminine, resurgence, moon ritual, and modern spirituality can be read on many publications for her deep, sensual, and raw approach to healing and transformation. She was called to find a way to share her spiritual work with women in places in the world where there's less access to workshops and classes and retreats. So together with Ruby Warrington, she created the online community Moon Club, which consists of hundreds of women worldwide who attend monthly online rituals, empowerment talks, and are guided by in-journey meditation and breathwork practices. She's working on her first book with the publisher Sounds True, out in early 2020, and will be leading retreats in 2019 at 1440 Multiversity, Kripalu Center, and Maha Rose, Mexico, and enjoying life between NYC and LA. Thanks for being here, Alexandra.
Thank you for having me.
I've been loving your Instagram posts, just kind of been behind the scenes, seeing just the beauty that you create, and it's such an honor to get to talk to you. My first question, I'm curious about if you had in your life like a wake-up moment, or like maybe there was just a period of time when things started to feel different, or maybe there were some challenges that brought that awakening for you. But I would love to start there. Just like, what was your waking up journey?
So I had 3 different years that were quite seminal for my waking up journey. And the first one was when I was around 13 and I grew up in Georgia. And at that time, I started really feeling like I didn't belong. I felt such a deep, devotional heart towards, at the time, what I would call God. And I felt like I didn't really fit in with the other kids at school. And so I felt very isolated internally. And at that time, I really did cry out to God for help and say, I can't do this. I was like, I just can't be here. This is not going to work for me. And that was when I had my first mystical experience. And I experienced around 3 months of inner peace. It was like I was gifted this state of being that I got access to. And then I felt it as it was fading away. And I remember the sadness in that deep inner peace fading away. Now, I don't know if this is like if full Buddha-like peace, or if it was a half peace, or, it's hard to put a label on states of consciousness in a way, but I felt it as it was leaving me. And I felt like, oh, shit. And I was young, I was 13. But it gave me a sort of sense of hope, even feeling like in Georgia that like I wasn't accepted as I was, and I was bullied, and a lot of girls were really mean to me. And I felt like very much like an outcast. And that sense of peace gave me the strength to be myself. And after that point, I did commit to being myself throughout the rest of middle school and high school, as isolating as that was, as threatening as that was at times to other people. And it definitely wasn't easy for me always, but I did it. I did it. Then when I got into college, I met my first kind of reunion with soul family. And that was really epic because I met one of my still dearest friends the first day of school at NYU. And she was sitting on the floor of the classroom, and we were all sitting in chairs. And I thought, who the hell is she? She's sitting on the floor. She's stretching. She has hairy armpits. She's wearing a vintage t-shirt with holes in it. And I was like, what the hell? And it's like, I had never really seen someone like that before growing up in Georgia. I mean, I'd seen plenty of hippies, like, to be honest, but I'd never seen a woman that much in her power. Like a woman who just didn't give a fuck. So I might have experienced alternative culture because I did. I went to like Fish concerts and Grateful Dead, reunion concerts. And I found the sort of more free loving hippies in Georgia. But in this moment at NYU, I experienced a woman who was not afraid to be her in her full power. And that was triggering to me. So I was very triggered by this friend, and she wasn't my friend then. And then we became best friends, and she's become an integral part of my soul family. And so she was very important to that awakening period, which she introduced me to being a vegetarian, to listening to Brian Eno, to drinking mate from a gourd, to many things, and I had a spiritual understanding from my mother, who I grew up with, like listening to Carolyn Myss and Louise Hay and Doreen Virtue, and that kind of thing. But it was when I was 19 that I read Autobiography of a Yogi and Be Here Now. And I really had a deep awakening to the yogic side of things that I hadn't quite experienced. I had experienced Western spirituality, and I'd experienced the mystical nature of my relationship with Jesus and with Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary. And that had always been present. But when I read those books, I was like, holy shit. And I'm sure like all my past lives were like, like activating. And it was a really, really powerful time. That's when I started practicing meditation, and very diligently when I was 19, 20, and like really kind of taking on a yogic ascetic life, like sleeping on the floor and taking cold showers and really being quite extremist at the time. So anyway, then those are two awakening moments that were quite big when I was like 12, 13, when I was 19, 20. And then when I was 30, 31, my friend that I was mentioning before, she was like, I had already experienced plant medicine ceremonies with ayahuasca and peyote for a few years, but she was like, I sat with this group, and you're gonna love them, and you need to come for this 3-night ayahuasca ceremony. And like I said, I had already been doing plant medicine, so I wasn't like scared about it, but I knew that there was something there for me at this ceremony that was going to be important. And that did end up being a pivotal moment. So that was like, those are like the 3 kind of complete awakening moments, different stages of my self-realization. And at that stage, it was a redirect as my life was going into the direction of Hollywood. And I was had agents at CA, and I was pitching a television show with Oscar-winning producers, and the medicine was like, this isn't your path anymore. And that was a very intense shift. There was a ton of grief and mourning around that realization and awakening. But I did what the medicine said. And I formed Moon Club, and I started working with people one-on-one, and started sharing publicly about my struggles and my growth. And here I am.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I had like lots of little questions come up from that. Were you, I believe I saw that you were just in India. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. I just went for the first time to India and Nepal.
Wow. How was that trip?
It was awesome. It felt important to me. I felt like a part of me was, even though like perhaps last life or many lifetimes I've had in those cultures, a part of me felt like it was out of alignment to be practicing traditions and practices and rituals of another culture that I'd never experienced. in this lifetime. I felt like that was out of alignment. And even though I have personal relationship with some of the Hindu deities, it is a religion of another country and another people that is not the one I was born into. And so more than anything, part of why I sort of put yoga aside when I was in my 20s is because I felt like it was becoming too commercial and too capitalistic. And I was grossed out by the way the West was handling it all. And so I just didn't want to identify with being a yogi publicly because I was embarrassed by the West taking something that's so beautiful and sacred and ritualized and just making it into like a sweat spot, a sweat, practice with, hip hop. Not to say that I'm judging that, like that's its own thing, but I just didn't want to identify with that. And so I really kind of stepped away from yoga and being public I was like a closeted yogi because I was ashamed to be associated with how yoga was being portrayed in modern Western culture. So there was like a bit of a reckoning and a reconciliation and a bowing that I needed to go to India and say like, thank you to this culture, this people, this land for welcoming me into it and its practices. And also to ask it what I can do for it as a Mama India and Nepal as well. Like, how could I be in right relation with that country, the religion, the culture, and also just to have better knowledge, to be like, wow, this is real Hinduism. Like, it's not like just having a t-shirt with Shiva on it. Like, that's actually kind of weird. Like, these people like honor this God in really intense ways. And I need to be just really knowledgeable about something like that that's so sacred and complex, and that comes from a culture that's not the one that I was born into. So there's a lot of just like listening and paying attention and curiosity. Being in India and being in Nepal, I was studying a lot of more Buddhist practices, and it was just epic. It was beautiful, amazing, and just felt good. Like I think that it felt easy for me to be in both of those places. I didn't have trouble being there. Like, it felt good.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to India for my first time when I was 22 and ended up staying for 6 months. And it was just like something in my soul knew I needed to be there, and so much opened for me. It's a really sacred place. Yeah, for me too. And such like contradictions. It's like you can find the most peaceful places in the world and then the most like gross, like loud, everything is there. And actually that, brings me to Tantra, and like Tantra being this embrace of everything and like embrace of the material world. And I wonder if you want to share about Tantra and your experience with it and how you bring it into your work now.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'm focusing personally, the way that I experience Tantra is allowing there to be no separation between anything in my life and my spiritual growth and awakening. It's an embodied, full body approach to spirituality. So it means no checking out. It means every present moment, every really, really hard feeling, every really uncomfortable thing is actually something that you step into. It doesn't mean you step into abuse. It doesn't mean you step into extra suffering just for the hell of it. But it means that you cultivate different wisdoms, like the wisdom of discernment. And this is why this is advanced practice. It's not for everybody. You need to have a deep daily practice, because you need to be able to cultivate the discernment. Do I walk into this anger right now and let it fucking split me open and carve out my heart? Or if I walk into this anger, is it going to take me and I'm going to become like an anger ghost running down the street? And so it takes high level practice to walk into the anger and to be able to see beyond it, right? Not to see blood. Does it making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a complicated question. And like, I'm curious as I evolve as a practitioner and as a teacher, how that will continue to be a part of my, what I talk about, because it's the West still, when you say Tantra, assumes you're talking about something sexy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm going to keep reminding people that it's not that. The sexy stuff is there. Like, I have all kinds of really powerful meditations that end up being super orgasmic, but that's not why we do this. And I'm not saying that there's something wrong with that, or that I'm going back to being puritanical, but they just have to be careful. Like, ooh, I'm lured in by Tantra. Oh, I get to have these sexy times. It's like, no, Tantra is like facing your bullshit head on.
Yeah.
You know, and really being unafraid to be full body in the present moment. And I told one of my friends who we went to India and Nepal together, we had a conflict when we came back. And I said, this is great. And he said, what do you mean? He said, I'm triggering you. And I said, yeah, of course you're triggering me. This is beautiful. You will stand in as my brother, my son, my lover, my father in any given moment if we are in a full tantric friendship.
Yeah.
So don't run. Let's both sit here and breathe and be here for each other. And he said, wow, that sounds like a lot of work. And I said, yeah, that's why I only do this with like 3 or 4 people, like my best friends. Like, I only have a handful of them because it is a lot of work. You're basically, being in each other's wounds at times, because you're sharing your wound. You're willing to look at it and open it. So it's definitely not work for the faint of heart, is what I always say.
Yeah. A little example of this for me is just when a little trigger comes up, or I just get that feeling like, okay, I got to have a difficult conversation with someone. I just got to go right in and have the conversation and say what's on my mind and my heart, rather than running away from it or hiding from it. And that one practice has been so transformational, to just be willing to have the difficult conversation and to not like ignore it or bypass it. But like, that's been a real practice for me this year. All kinds of people have just had to sit down and do that. And actually, like, I've learned that when I can approach it in a way of mindfulness and heart and love, that it is so received. And it makes me feel like, wow, I can keep looking at that person in the eye. I can keep being around this person. I don't need to cut them out of my life because I spoke my truth.
Yes, exactly. That's so empowering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about coming into your power, and because that reminds me of just like, as women, setting boundaries and speaking up for ourselves. And what also comes to mind is Mary Magdalene, and I work a lot with her, and also the Queen archetype, and just those greater energies of like calling us into our power, and what that journey has been like for you.
So yummy. Just feels good to think about that. I think my journey to claiming my power and exploring all those different facets of my own inner feminine has been one that has started when I was quite young, and I saw the power. And I remember there was a boy at my high school, and he said, Roxo, you got something. You got that special mystique. And I remember in the moment, I think I was maybe like 14, and we were all pretty evolved souls, the kids I hung out with. I remember, like, they're like kind of like pot smoking and like Alan Watts, reading. And for Georgia, yeah, we were deep. But I remember in that moment thinking, yeah, I do have access to this mystique, the feminine radiance. And at a young age, I was unafraid to let it shine. And it was just not really possible to hide it. I tried. And I tried by limiting like calories, by making myself smaller if possible. It didn't ever really work. So I tried by like wearing certain outfits that maybe I would fit in. No one would know how sparkling I am and how powerful. But that power was kind of always there. And it was just a matter of getting comfortable with it. And that is, I think, with all of us, it's like we all have the power. Different souls have different lessons this life, right? So maybe your lesson is about something else. Maybe your main existential kind of crisis this life, or encumberment or thing that you're working towards isn't necessarily about power. But I think if we are women, female-bodied women on this planet at this time, part of our journey is reclaiming our power because it has been a planet, whether, when I was like 21 and at NYU, I wrote a paper about the Western woman and the Christian woman and the Muslim woman, and about some of the tools of oppression from the patriarchy. And I had photographs of women in corsets and women with like stockings with metal things, and women with like, bras with like under wires and like paints all over their face, makeup, and then women in certain Muslim countries with like a hijab or a burqa. And at the time I wrote this paper, so it's centered on art and performance, so I was looking through the lens of two different artists who I admired, who were both incredible feminist artists. One, if you studied photography, Francesca Woodman. And well, actually, they're both photographers. The other photographer, why can't I remember her name? She's Persian, Shirin Nisha. Do you know who she is? Anyway, so I looked through the lens of a Muslim artist and a Western woman, and really was talking about in this paper how, like, in the West, we might think, oh, look at them. Wow, how awful they have to wear a hijab. How awful they have to wear burqa. And like, what if they're looking at us and saying, wow, how awful they have to wear those high heels. They look like torture devices. How awful they have to wear that corset. Jeez, how do they breathe in that? How awful they have to paint their face, and how awful that they have to wax off that hair, how, like bleach their asshole, like all this stuff, like torture. And so in a sense, I thought, okay, we Western women think, oh my God, look at them over there. And they're probably thinking, oh my God, look at them over there. And really, we've all been subjected to this patriarchal system that has asked us to manipulate ourselves and our power, to repress it, to suppress it, to cut it, to crop it, to smush it, to augment it in order to be loved, in order to be approved of, but mostly to be loved, even liked, right? And so I think when we talk about reclaiming our power, we have to educate ourselves, and we have to get really real about where we're opting in to releasing our power, to giving it away, and really seeing that as like, oh shit, I've been giving away my power here and here and here and here, and I didn't even question it, because that's just the way it is. That's the paradigm of reality that I was given. That's the rule book I was given, unspoken, right? Like, as a woman, you do this if you live in this country. As a woman, you do this if you're in this religion. As a woman, you do this if you're in this religion. And I think women are waking up all around, and they're like, whoa, no. That doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel right. That makes my stomach hurt. That makes me have gas and constipation. That makes me have heartburn. It makes me have headaches. Like, something's wrong here. That makes me cry at night. That makes me depressed. That makes me have anxiety. So we're dealing with that. Like, our grandmas, they were probably facing anxiety, depression, undiagnosed, for suppressing their voices, their desires, their dreams, their wishes, their sexual urges, their spiritual urges. So we're in the process now, and I think in different cultures around the world, it's happening in different ways, of waking up and saying, wait a minute, do I want to wear the heels? Do I like the heels? Or do they make me feel like a pawn in this game? Like, do I feel like I want to speak up, or is my secret superpower to be this silent, gorgeous force in the room? And the only way that we can reclaim that power is to begin to know ourselves deeply on a soul and a heart level, right? Because if we're looking externally, we're going to be confused because the world is sending us so many different messages. But if we commit to daily practice, whether that's through dance, meditation, journaling, collaging, singing to plants, sitting in nature, but really committing to a solid practice that brings you back to you on the deeper level, not you on the ego level or the personality level or the I, the conditioned level, but the thing that's below that. If we commit to that, then that's where that process of reclaiming the power begins. Because if we're committing from the outside in, it's like we're dealing with symptoms without getting to the root cause. So we have to go into the root first. And when we go into the root cause, that's where we find the ancestral trauma. That's when we find the really deeply embedded patterns. And that's where it can be the heavy lifting. Some people don't want to do that. And that's where working with a coach or a healer or doing plant medicine work, if that's your jam, or doing something that gets into the root work of your subconscious and your patterning and your ancestral lines is helpful. If you really want to deeply reclaim your power, because so much of it is tied into generations of suppression and suffering for women.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And one of the things I thought about when I knew I was going to have this time with you, I thought about like, it really seems like you do claim your power in a way of like, this is who I am. And I'm just going to be myself and I don't really care what other people think kind of thing. And I've noticed too, like in your newsletters and things, there's just such authenticity. And sometimes I wonder like, wow, I wonder if Alexandra ever gets worried about like her family reading this or like, just how that journey has been for you, like navigating being your whole self. And also like, do you ever have those moments of wondering, well, what are other people going to think of this? Or
it's a great question. And I always joke that I was kind of like born without that thing, and that it's weird about that thing. Yeah. I have a lot of other things that I was born with that are annoying, but like that I was born without that. Now, the thing that I do have is that I do love to be loved. So if something I'm doing threatens people loving me, then yes, it will be difficult for me. But it's rare that anything I do threatens me being loved, because you know why? Because I already went through those stages where I cut out the people that don't love me as me by being me. And that was tough. So, but I already went through that a few times this life. And now the people that love me as is. They love me if I'm messy, if I'm tired, if I'm weird, if I'm grumpy, if I'm triggered, if I'm in my wound, in my shadow, they still love me. And that's been super epic. So I'm not afraid of what people think. I don't want to lose the love of the people around me, but I'm not writing shitty things about them in my newsletter, so they don't give a fuck. I also have in my astrology chart, my sun is in the 10th house. And that means my life is about being seen. And I've always wanted to be an actor. And that's why I went to school for acting. And so I actually, and I have a lot of Aquarian energy. So I actually love offering myself as an avatar for others. I don't identify with so much with this self. Like I do and I don't. So I do in some ways. And it's like, I love making her a sense like the sacrificial lamb or the devotional offering to others. I get off on that, And that makes me happy because I feel like if I can offer my experiences to others and if they help, I don't give a fuck what people think. Like,
Yeah.
so
That's so
people,
freeing.
yeah. And I mean, I do think when I was younger, I did. Like, I went through those phases when I was younger. Like, I made, but the thing is like, I already was doing naked self portraiture on 35 millimeter film when I was like 20. And like dressing myself as Mother Mary and putting like chocolate syrup on my eyes, like tears and black and white photos. And like, I made a film in college where it was just like I was naked rolling in, different colored paints and everyone was dressed like dolls. And I mean, I've always been into like experimental art and feminist art. But when it became personal, there definitely was a leap, and there was a big leap there. It was a great book.
Yes, I love that book.
It's a great book. So I had to burst through a ceiling there when I made it about myself, but that's what I knew I needed to do. But I made a web show called Be Here Nowish in the first and second season or on YouTube, and I made it back in my 20s, and it was about me and my spiritual path and my friend and both of our spiritual paths. It was funny and silly, and so I think that it's a hard one. And, it's like, I know how to lead other people through this because it's what I do with so many of my clients, help them to feel comfortable being seen, sharing their voices, sharing their bodies, sharing their talents, sharing their anger, their rage, their love, whatever it is. For me, it's a part of my makeup, that I love that. It feels really good for me to share. And I will say things that were tough for me when I was younger, like, I came out to both my parents as being queer, bisexual when I was in my early 20s. And that was hard. I thought I would lose their love, and that was hard. So because I thought I would lose their love, it was hard for me. That was like me being me, I didn't feel like that ever again with them or anyone else. I feel like I came out of the psychedelic closet, the spiritual closet, the closet as an artist. I always joke, I'm like, how many closets do I have to come out of this life? Come out of being like witch, come out as being like the traveler spirit, all these things. But I just knew that the people that love me would stick around and they'd be good ones. And last night I was laughing because I was having dinner with two of my best friends here in Venice. And I was like, oh my fucking God, I'm so happy I have you guys. Like you're both Aquarius, you're both eccentric weirdos. You're amazing. We have the most deep mystical conversation. I could say anything to them and they would not bat an eye. It's just like the same for another friend I was talking to this morning because my moon is in Aquarius and we all have a lot of Aquarian energy. And I was like, oh yeah, I just love eccentric people that are like so themselves and so just unique and expressed. So I think I just know that if I keep being me, I'll attract the right people around. And it might not be on the timeline that I wish, but they will come. And I might trigger some people being me, but that's not my problem, unless I'm attacking them and saying something mean to them directly, which I never ever do. Maybe when I was a child, but nothing I do is direct towards someone. So if they are triggered by me, then that's their stuff. And yeah, all I can do is just keep being myself. And if it feels good to be myself, just keep being myself,
Yeah. Do you have any advice if there's someone out there listening to this who's like, ooh, like I still have those people in my life who are judging me or not accepting me as I am?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what advice do you have around either letting go of those relationships or shifting them in some way?
Yeah, it's a really great question. Something I've thought about a lot lately because I have Moon Club, which is we are a community and a membership program where we help people through transformational processes by doing monthly new moon meditations, which is a guided journey into your heart that I help you to learn the language of your heart so that you can discern what to do in your life. And then we also have a lunar planner that helps you. And we do monthly lessons. And this month, the lesson is around friendship. So Friendship Detox Month. And part of that is when you are ready to make changes, to be yourself, to stop playing small for others, to stop, putting parts of yourself in a box because you're afraid other people will be uncomfortable. You absolutely need support. You cannot do that alone unless you want to potentially put yourself in a place where you go into a depressive state. I don't want that for you. So the best thing to do is what I tell all of my clients as well. It's like you need a daily practice that you are so committed to. You need to be so good about your health and wellness. Like, it's not a thing. It's just part of your life that you fucking nail. And then you need a community. Without those things, please don't do any transformational work. Please don't open the caverns in your soul and the shadows. It's not safe. And I hate that people out there in the world are telling people to do it at times and they don't really have the infrastructure in place, because it can bring a depression on, and you really want to have those things in place. So in Moon Club, we guide people through how to do this, so that if you are claiming who you are publicly in a new way and you lose friends, that hole can be filled with practice, an accountability buddy, a Facebook group, Slack chains, live meetups on Zoom, retreats, gatherings, so that you don't feel alone. And that's really important, I think, as you make those changes. And also really learning how to do it gracefully and not getting defensive and reactive, and having compassion, learning compassion practices as well, so that if you being you challenges others in your life, that you can, instead of be like, well, fuck them, I don't want to be around them anyway, but you can look at them with compassion and just say, hey, I love you as you. And if this is too much for you, if it doesn't work for you, if it doesn't feel good for you, I totally honor that. And I'm willing to step away for now, or for good, who knows, and do it with grace, And that doesn't mean don't speak up for yourself. Like, that's something else that we are talking about this month, is how to speak up for yourself and advocate, but without getting defensive or going into that place of like, let me teach you and school you. Because essentially, as you become you and as you do you, some people won't resonate with that. They just won't. And it's not personal. It's like, vanilla ice cream. It's like more people resonate with that. But if you start to fine tune yourself and you become like vanilla with like an organic mint, and a little bit of a cacao on the side, like less people are going to want that, but it's much more refined and specific and elevated and exciting. Right. So,
yeah.
It's definitely, I think a lot of people do. I've stayed small for lovers or past friends, even a business partner. And I know it's so hard at times to say no to something, even when you know that it's not working anymore. That's when I really do feel like support is key.
Yeah. Love those tips.
Yeah.
What does your daily practice look like right now?
So I've been doing Tibetan Buddhist daily practices for a while. So I practice, I have 3 or 4 different Tibetan Buddhist practices that I do every day. One is that, and I'm not a Buddhist kind of publicly. It's a philosophy, not a religion, that I do really resonate with and I practice with. So I take refuge daily. I take the bodhicitta vow daily, which says that my life is dedicated towards the awakening of all beings and in the refinding of the ground of compassion. And then I practice a single focus awareness meditation. And then I practice a mantra that was given to me in a tantric initiation in Nepal. And that's part of the Vajrayana tradition. And anyway, all of that is like, it's advanced level. I'm not saying that it's like a hierarchy in a sense, but I've been practicing different forms of meditation for 15 years. And it's taken me until this time to be ready for Vajrayana Buddhist tradition. It's kind of like the highest, most intense stuff. And I can feel it really causing waves in my life. So I wouldn't recommend that everyone just go sign up for Vajrayana Buddhism tomorrow. But some of the things that I've been doing for 15 years that I still do, morning pages, which I got from The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron that I did when I was like 19. So every morning I do write in my journal. Sometimes it's like not a lot. Sometimes it's a lot. Every morning I also do some sort of breath or embodiment work. And I have an embodiment practice on my website that I sell that is a 40-minute practice. There's two. There's one that's more fierce and there's one that's just more softening. And that's to sort of soften the layers of hardness on the heart. And it's a breath and sound practice. And it really gets you into your body. It frees space. It gets you out of your head. So especially if you've had a busy work week and you feel like on high octane, you've been thinking at the computer, it will drop you right back into your body, your womb, your heart, like all the way in there. Mm-hmm. So I do practice that quite a bit. Depending on what I'm going through in my life, it really drops me into my feminine side. When I've been like badass boss bitch, I'm like, great, but I want to feel my heart again. Mm-hmm. So those practices, daily meditation, daily journaling, and the embodiment practice. And then, because I've been doing this for a while, I do have like an extended toolkit that I use. And, I love tapping when I'm working through certain emotional blockages.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's great. And I love microdosing psilocybin mushrooms to help with rewiring brain chemistry. So if people have any serotonin kind of issues or depressive issues, studies being done around psilocybin helping with depression. And so that's helped me at certain times of my life quite a bit. And I do different things. I also do certain practices from indigenous, like Amazonian, because I've spent a lot of time with ayahuasca. And this year I'm going to go to Peru and go talk to that space and say thank you. So, but the base practice is daily that I kind of recommend to everyone. It's just like journaling, 20 minutes solid meditation. You can use Insight Timer, which is a great app. And then doing the embodiment practice to get into the heart, even if you do that for 10, 15 minutes and you can't do the whole 30 minutes.
I love it. It's like, giving yourself a structure and you can kind of switch it up a little every day.
Yeah, depending on like where you are in your menstrual cycle or what's going on in your personal life. Like if you're dealing with a lot of rage, like you might need that embodiment practice to just rage it out for 30 minutes and then sit in a quiet meditation, because I believe that we have to claim our emotions and learn to feel our emotions and have a good handle on them before we can sit and kind of transcend them. Yeah. Because if we've grown up in a culture that doesn't allow us to feel our anger, then you have a repressed part of you there. And so if you sit in meditation, you're like, oh no, I'm not going to feel my anger. I have no anger. Likely, it's actually turning into a shadow and it's unexpressed. So I think for a lot of women, it's important to learn a healthy place to feel your anger, to have a practice around it. And then you can sit in meditation and kind of laugh at it. Ha, 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 anger. I don't identify with you. I'm not you, but I'm not afraid to feel you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Can you tell us a fear that you've faced in the last year?
So many. I mean, my fears in the last year, I've had a few really gorgeous connections, love connections that have been incredibly magical and incredibly healing, and that have not been life partners or people that I've been involved in a longer partnership with. And so I experienced a lot of fear and discomfort in those situations. If I look at my life, what has caused me a lot of suffering are those relationships. Often with men, my relationship with my father has been something that has been a huge place of work for me this life, spiritual work and growth. And we have fucking nailed it. And it's amazing. I've never been so happy with my relationship with him. And, I used to hate him and he did some things that were really difficult. And I love him now. I've totally spent literally 15 years working on it consciously, forgiving him, puking it up in plant medicine ceremonies, crying it out. All of it. It's been a raw journey. But so that, of course, just like the magic of the universe and how things are and karma, of course, that has been mimicked in my relationship with other men. Like I didn't get a free pass that only he's the hard man. Of course, some of those patterns are going to play out with other men. So that has caused me a lot of suffering at times, because I've had these things show up that were from dad in relationships, and they've been frustrating. And so there's been fear there too. And it's been the area that I've had to work on the hardest. It's taken the most courage. It's taken the most, tenacity and strength to keep going. It's been the times where I've been the most sad. And I don't really feel those as much around my work. I just feel like I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. And I feel like I'm a pawn of the universe. Like I'm just doing what it tells me to do. But with love, it's a space that I definitely a lot of different things come up. And I've had these very kind of karmic people come in that are just we stare into each other's eyes and just cry for hours. And, they tell me they love me and we love each other. It's like we're entering into a portal. So it's some trippy, weird ass shit. And then it can be intense. So last year I had a few of those that were very healing, and epic, and men that were kind of beyond the scope of what I knew was possible to have in partnership and friendship and love. But really on the, when there's that much of an opening and an expansion with a love or a lover, there's often just the same on the other side of the contraction or a resistance.
Mm.
And so diving into the deep end with love with people and getting really open-hearted and vulnerable and real means that any pain or any old stuff that's hiding in that heart comes right to the surface.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm afraid, I'm glad I wasn't afraid to face those fears, because I just opened my heart anyway. I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not going to hold back, even though this is terrifying to stand in front of this man who's asking me to open. I'm going to open. And I'm going to practice that, letting go of the lead, letting go of control, really opening. And now it's just, I did that, and I'm in the discernment process. So now I graduated from that level. I ain't doing that anymore unless it's someone who's a life partner. But I don't regret doing it with those people, because it was incredible healing that happened.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. So you have a book, you're writing a book, and I wonder if you could just share a little about that, and also anything else you're excited about in your business right now.
Yeah. So the book won't be coming out for almost another year, and it's called How to Heal Your Shit and Fuck Like a Goddess. Just casual, super casual. It really is how to heal all the things and to work with and reclaim all the things that cause you suffering. It's tantric. It's let's get in there. Let's look at it. Let's not be afraid to look at the hard stuff. And then let's use it to walk down the street in a blissful, divine, radiant, magnetic state. Not every day is that possible, but it is possible. It truly is. So that I'm in the editing process right now. So, but I'm really excited by Moon Club, because we have so many women coming together and just fucking being ready to up level and to face their shit so that they can grow and become leaders. And so many of the women in our program have become leaders, have started businesses that are thriving. And that to me makes me the happiest. Literally more happy than all the fucking likes in the world, all the followers, all the whatever. It makes me so happy when my clients are thriving and when our Moon Club members are killing it and they're busting through their limiting beliefs. Like I had a client with massive anxiety and I worked with her one-on-one, and then she like started her own anxiety support group, and she started talking about publicly what it's like to be a person with anxiety. And the last time I saw her, she showed up at our retreat last July, and I like did a double take because she was like a radiant goddess walking into this room, super sexy and just like juicy. And I looked at her and I was like, holy shit, like it makes me so happy. Like you are shining. So yeah, that makes me the happiest. And I love Moon Club. And so we have different options for people who are curious about this work. You can come in kind of at a lower monthly rate for $11 and just get my new moon heart meditation every month. Or you can do the more community coaching aspect, which is $99 a month. And it has the live components on Zoom gatherings. And that's really fun for people that do want some more guidance. So that stuff's exciting me. And we have retreats coming up this year. And I'm doing a lot of traveling and going on my own retreats this year. So I'm bringing all of that to the community. I'm going to go meet Ram Dass this year in Hawaii. I'm going to go study again more Tantric Buddhism with Lama Sultram in Colorado. And I'm going to go to the jungle in Peru and study more with ayahuasca. And so I'll be bringing all of that to my community, all of that background. And the same as how I feel post-India. It's like being able to be a leader in my community and to acknowledge that a lot of the practices that we do come from these traditions and these places and these teachers, and that it's so good. It feels so good to honor them and to be in right relation with them. So I love being the leader of my community, which is our community, and to be able to have that exchange. So it's a really exciting year in that way.
Yay.
Yeah.
And I think we have a link to that people can sign up for a month free of Moon Club.
Yes, I'm offering you all a month free. You can do the new moon heart journey. You can literally lay down on your bed, put your headphones in, and listen to me talk to you. And then we also have the lunar planner that you'll get, which is like an editable PDF that you can put all your intentions in for the cycle, or you can print it out. And it just helps you to keep yourself accountable for your healing and transformation.
Yay.
Yeah.
I'll include the link in the show notes so we can all dive into that. Do you have any just closing words, anything you want to leave us with before I end this call with a short prayer?
Well, I think more than anything right now, the well-being of this planet and the animals on this planet and the trees on this planet and the humans on this planet depends on each of us. It really depends on us breaking free from our personal limitations. We are extensions of the earth. We're like little hairs on her head. We're like little pores on her skin. And so if our internal state is contracted, convoluted, in a lot of pain and suffering, then we are her, and of course it's going to reflect onto her. So the more that we can do our own internal work and be unafraid to do it and set up the safety we need to do it, right? The containers to support us. The more we do that, the more that we do create a new paradigm for this planet. They say that I think like 200 species of animals are being extinct every day right now. And a lot is going on with climate change. And it is definitely a moment on this planet where we need to be fierce. We need to be engaged, right? We also need to rest. We need to take care of ourselves, and we need to replenish. And we need to rise together and stand together, because I do think that the well-being of the planet depends on it. And, and the well-being of us internally is the yummiest thing in that process. It's like, oh yeah, actually me doing my healing work and my transformational work and looking at my stuff, my patterns, my habits, my traumas, my personal narratives that are limiting me is going to help the planet. It is. It doesn't stop there, but it does help. So whatever practices you resonate with, teachers you resonate with, I urge you to just commit, right? I said to Moon Club the other day, why are you going to be following like 20 spiritual teachers and reading all their messages? That's going to create confusion for you. Like, why are you going to be like engaging with all these different things and spreading your energy all around? Like, really commit to going deep somewhere. Because the transformation does not happen surface unless you have spontaneous enlightenment, spontaneous awakening. Bless your heart. That's fucking great. And I'm proud of you. You're one of the 1%. But otherwise, it's going to happen from deep, deep, deep work and deep commitment. And so if you're just dabbling, kind of a little energy here, a little energy there, you might not get the juice that you're really seeking. So whatever it is, I just urge you to commit and to go deep with it, even when you're bored, even when you're like, this meditation stuff sucks, or like, what is moon ritual? This is dumb. But to work through the resistance and to keep showing up. And I guarantee you there will be a breakthrough at some point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll just invite us all to come back to our breath and our heart. Just breathing it all in, everything, taking it in, whatever works for you, whatever gems from this conversation you want to take with you and out into the world. That deep commitment. And I'll just bring my hands to my heart, and just may all of you just continue to deepen on your path, to continue to listen to your inner guidance, to follow those inner callings, to be able to see your life and everything in it as a opportunity to grow, an opportunity to deepen your own practice, and to support you in being of greater service and contribution in whatever way you want to make in this life. Just thanking Alexandra and all of her wisdom, so many wise words, so much heart. And thanking everyone listening for being here, showing up, and doing your work. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to our show today. We would love to hear what you think. Take a moment to hop on over to iTunes and leave us a review. We'd be so grateful to receive it. Until next time, namaste.